Indonesia is facing a serious challenge. Known for its lush vegetation, exotic wildlife, and even more exotic beaches and vacation spots, this luxurious image is only half of the picture, as on the other end of the spectrum is a country plagued with overpopulation, epidemics, natural disasters, and a sinking capital. Yes, Indonesia's current capital city is quickly sinking into the Java Sea. With more than 10 million people calling it home, this is undoubtedly a massive problem. However, to combat this tragedy, Indonesia has begun a construction plan that is not only mesmerizing, but is also ingenious. 3 times the size of New York and considered an urban green city, Nusantara has become the savior of Jakarta. But what exactly is Nusantara? What would it look like? And most importantly, would this city in the jungle be built fast enough to save the people of Jakarta? Standing strong as the capital city of Indonesia since the country declared its independence from the Netherlands on the 17th of August 1945, Jakarta is perhaps one of the most populated places in Indonesia to date. Housing anywhere between 10 million and 30 million people at different times of the year, Jakarta has always been a major hub for the country. But now that hub is dying, and it's all because of the nature of the region. With over 10 million residents in the main city, and more than 30 million in the greater Jakarta metropolitan area, it's no surprise that the city is failing. In fact, it's a miracle that it somehow still functions. Why? Well, Jakarta was never designed to accommodate the precipitous number of people who call it home. This unprecedented growth has led to traffic congestion that makes India look like a joke. Bad infrastructure that can barely serve anyone, pollution as far as the eyes can see, and worst of all, regular flooding that routinely provides the city residents with an unwanted indoor swimming pool. Jokes aside, perhaps the worst part of Jakarta's problem is the fact that so many people live there, and the city is actively sinking into the Java Sea. Now, this isn't just because of the staggering population, as many would think, but rather because of a far more daunting situation. See, Jakarta is located on a delta on the northwest coast of the island of Java, where about 13 rivers, including the Siliwang River, which is about 119 kilometers or 74 miles long, flow into the Java Sea. The area is characterized by flat, low-lying terrain, which is typical of a delta region. As expected, the rivers are prone to frequent flooding, particularly during the rainy seasons. But that surprisingly wasn't the major problem, as parts of Jakarta are sinking at an alarming rate due to excessive groundwater extraction. Essentially, Jakarta is sinking quickly because too much underground water is being pumped out, as a large part of the population relies on groundwater sources like wells, boreholes, and so on. Well, the earth can only take so much before it gives in. To better understand this situation, imagine the ground as a sponge full of water. If you keep squeezing out the water, the sponge gets smaller and flatter. Similarly, when too much water is taken from underground, the ground above sinks or collapses. And in Jakarta's case, it's doing so into the Java Sea at about 11 inches per year. That might seem small, but at the moment, 40% of the city is already below sea level, making this city the fastest sinking city in the world, even more than Venice, which quite literally is built on stilts. Of course, this sinking differs in different areas. The problem is widely spread, and a mixture of rising sea levels and poor water management is not only making the problem worse, but also making the flooding problem even worse. Although countless remedies have been tried, it seems nothing can save the quickly sinking city. Well, that was until the Indonesian government decided to do something insane. They planned to build a new capital. Putting things in perspective, a new capital isn't a bad idea. It isn't even a new idea, as many countries have done in the past. For example, Brazil changed its capital from Brasilia to Rio de Janeiro in 1960. Nigeria changed its capital from Lagos to Abuja in 1991, and Kazakhstan changed its capital from Kazakhstan to Nur-Sultan in 1997. The change of capital might not have been a new idea, but it was most definitively an audacious one. Planned to be 3 times the size of New York and 40 times the size of Manhattan, Nusantara is planned to sit on more than 200,000 hectares of land and is located 7,000 kilometers away from Jakarta in the middle of the jungle in Borneo. But why the jungles of Borneo? Well, Indonesia is what you call an archipelago. which essentially is a group or chain of islands clustered together in a sea or ocean. Indonesia isn't any ordinary archipelago though. It's the largest in the world, with more than 17,000 islands, stretching across Southeast Asia and Oceania. So with 17,000 options, why choose Borneo Island? The answer boils down to geography and a little bit of politics. Besides being the third largest island on Earth with massive forests that are about 140 million years old, Borneo also had a little trick up its sleeve that quickly enticed the Indonesian government. Borneo is practically situated in the heart of Indonesia and shares its borders with Malaysia and Brunei to the north. This strategic central location makes it an ideal choice for a new capital. By moving the capital to Borneo, Indonesia isn't just shifting its administrative center, it's also planning to create a hub that will enhance connectivity throughout the entire archipelago and across borders. Jakarta, while historic and vibrant, simply could not provide the same level of integration and access to the far reaches of the nation. In fact, Jakarta had a hoarding problem. With 60% of the country's GDP coming from Jakarta, people in Indonesia began to complain that other islands were not getting as much attention as the capital. For example, in Kalimantan, a portion of the island of Borneo was making less than 10% of the GDP, even though it is rich in coal, gold, and oil. But the worst part was that the country was actively losing money from Jakarta, because besides the issues with the capital, the region was still losing an estimated $6 billion in production each year, all because of these issues. Essentially, Borneo was chosen to help spread the resources of the nation more equally, and to also move people from the already struggling Jakarta to a new location. Besides, Borneo Island was chosen because of its unique geology, which keeps it protected from natural disasters like flooding, earthquakes, and volcanic eruptions. Borneo is also rich in natural resources, beauty, and an amazing ecosystem with extensive biodiversity that includes some of the rarest animals, like orangutans. Now, remember the Kalimantan region that we mentioned earlier? Well, that island happens to be the site for the construction of the new capital, Nusantara. Scheduled to be inaugurated on August 17, 2024, which is Indonesian Independence Day, Nusantara is located on the east coast of the island of Borneo, specifically in the province of East Kalimantan. Designed by Urban Plus, an architecture firm from Jakarta, Nusantara will cover an area of about 2,560 square kilometers, or 990 square miles, nestled among hilly landscapes, a forest, and a natural bay. The design was chosen out of more than 300 that were submitted, and by all accounts, it looks like something from a sci-fi movie. The project, valued at 523 trillion Indonesian rupiah, or $35 billion US, is set to be completed in 5 phases. With a major emphasis on harmony with the natural environment, Nusantara aims to be a smart forest city with 65% green space and 10% farming areas. It aims to be completely powered by renewable energy and to promote walking, cycling, and public transportation, even going on to claim that these would make up 80% of all commutes. The city will be divided into 3 zones. The main governmental zone, which is about 68.56 square kilometers, or 26.47 square miles, will be the core area where you'll find the presidential and vice presidential palaces, key government buildings, cultural parks, and botanical gardens. The capital city area, which is about 561.8 square kilometers, or 216.91 square miles, will feature housing for government workers, the police, and military personnel, as well as schools, hospitals, universities, research centers, high-tech industries, and military bases. The capital city development zone, which is planned to be a larger area, will be developed in 2 phases. Phase 1 will include a national park, facilities to help conserve orangutans, and additional housing, while Phase 2 will focus on expanding the city with more metropolitan developments and connecting it to nearby regions. Now, how does Indonesia plan to pull this off? Nusantara, meaning archipelago in Japanese, will be constructed in 5 distinct phases. The first phase, spanning from 2022 to 2024, is the most ambitious, especially because it aims to be completed in just 2 years. This phase would focus on establishing the government zone. This includes government offices, the presidential and vice presidential palaces, and essential infrastructure like roads, electricity, water supply, and a core public transit system. Focusing on the presidential palace, it really does seem like Indonesia took a book straight from Singapore and Malaysia's architecture. Designed in the shape of the Garuda, Indonesia's national symbol, The palace is designed to stand as a testament to the country's rich cultural heritage and aspirations. The Garuda that building is modeled after is a mythical bird representing knowledge, power, and bravery, and is depicted in the palace design as giant glass wings spanning 177 meters, creating a truly striking visual landmark. This iconic structure will be situated along a central, long, straight road, ensuring it remains a focal point of the city. The design is quite unique and not only captures the spirit of Indonesia, but also incorporates practical elements suited to the region's environment. It would feature elevated walkways and buildings on stilts that will provide better airflow and rainwater management, integrating the palace seamlessly into Nusantara's smart forest city vision. The Vice Presidential Palace, on the other hand, is designed to complement the impressive Presidential Palace. The design for the Vice Presidential Palace won an open competition and was created by the company SHAU. At its core, it takes inspiration from traditional Indonesian longhouses, which are known for their community-focused and practical design. The palace will feature a modern look, but still incorporate elements from these traditional longhouses, such as a three-part structure that reflects the old architectural style. This will help the building fit well with Nusantara's goal of blending new city development with the natural environment. Both the presidential and vice presidential palaces are planned to be officially opened on Indonesian Independence Day, the 17th of August 2024. This opening will mark a major step in the creation of Nusantara. Following this, 6,000 civil servants are also expected to move into Nusantara by October 2024. In time for the inauguration of presidential-elect Prabowo Subianto. Phase 2 is scheduled from 2025 to 2029 and will see the development of mixed-use areas, which would include industries, businesses, educational institutions, and even retail spaces. By the end of this phase, the government aims to have relocated about 1.2 million people to Nusantara, creating a bustling urban environment. Phase 3, starting in 2030 and continuing until 2034, will focus on the development of a comprehensive mass transportation system. If executed well, this smart public transport system is estimated to take you anywhere in 10 minutes, no matter where you want to go within the city. The transport system plan includes creating a walkable city with a network of cycling paths, a metro system with 2 rail lines, a rapid bus transit system, and autonomous minibuses for local transport. It would also include an automated guideway that will connect the new capital to the Balikpapan Highway, while a new intercity rail system will link Nusantara to nearby cities like Samarinda and Balikpapan as part of the larger Trans-Kalimantan railway network. A 47-kilometer toll road will also connect the government's central area to the Naratatama Airport and Balikpapan. For flights, Nusantara will be served by the nearby Aji Pangeran Tumenggung Pranoto Airport in Samarinda, Sultan Aji Muhammad Sulaiman Sepinggang Airport in Balikpapan, and a new Naratatama Airport that is being built in Penajam. Additionally, this phase will expand waste and water management projects to ensure sustainable growth. The economic development of local businesses will also be a key focus during this period. From 2035 to 2039, Phase 4 will see the construction of regional railway networks, enhancing connectivity within the city and beyond. This phase will also extend educational and health services to accommodate the increasing population. Finally, Phase 5, due for completion by 2045 to mark the 100th anniversary of Indonesian independence, will involve further industrial development and efforts to ensure stable population growth. By the end of this phase, Nusantara is planned to be home to 1.9 million residents and one of the most environmentally friendly cities in the world. As a part of Indonesia's carbon-neutral plan by 2060, the city will only use about 1/4 of its land for buildings and 10% for farming, while the remaining 65% of the 260,000 hectares will be controlled by the capital authority as forests. To keep with this initiative, Nusantara is also expected to install a 50-megawatt solar plant and only allow electric cars by the end of the decade. The new capital has gained international attention as Tony Blair, the former Prime Minister of the United Kingdom, and Abu Dhabi Crown Prince Mohammed bin Zayed Al Nahyan are both part of the steering committee of the project. In fact, the Tony Blair Institute even signed a deal to build a research center in the new capital. Although amazingly planned, where the Nusantara begins to have issues is funding. See, Indonesia's government aimed to fund 20% of the project and get the rest from the public and other countries. But catastrophe struck in March 2022, when Japan's SoftBank pulled out of the project when they supposedly came to check the progress and saw only a white sign saying Nusantara Ground Zero. Following this, the country looked to the United Arab Emirates, China, and other Middle East countries for help. So far, according to officials, the government has invested around $3.4 billion and the private sector about $2.5 billion. Besides funding, Nusantara has also faced serious backlash from the 23 million people who live in Borneo. Indonesia doesn't recognize ancestral land claims, and as such, settlements have become a problem in the region. In fact, in March 2024, 9 locals were arrested for resisting orders to abandon land they had farmed to make way for a VVIP airport that would serve the new capital. Today, 2,086 hectares in the capital area are still in unclear status. There's also tension as these same individuals are not being employed or paid well enough. According to internal statistics seen by Foreign Policy, of the 15,092 employees of the Capital Authority, just 2,693 were locals. To make things worse, the daily wage for a construction worker was around 150,000 rupiah, a little over $9. But perhaps the biggest criticism of the project comes from environmental concerns. Ironically, this massive green city is already polluting the earth as it relies heavily on coal for power, and now people are extremely skeptical about the future of the capital's green initiative. Although a solar power plant is being set up for Nusantara, the city at the moment still relies on the regional electricity grid, which is mostly powered by coal. But that's not all. To reach the goal of having 65% of the city covered in forest, a big reforestation effort will be needed. This means planting trees on 120,000 hectares of land currently used for farming, mining, or plantations. Now, this is very challenging, as before the plans were announced, the area was losing about 4,000 hectares of forest each year. With new measures in place, the loss has dropped to 1,000 hectares per year, and the goal is to stop deforestation entirely by 2030. But many doubt this will be possible. Moving capital is quite a huge deal, and many countries that have tried have ended up with ghost towns like Brasilia or face housing issues like Abuja. Regardless of where you stand, there is no denying that Nusantara is an audacious task with an even more audacious timeline. But if executed well, this city will most definitely place Indonesia on the map. But what do you think? Is Nusantara doomed to fail? Or is it destined to leave the region? Also, would you like to visit the region? Let us know in the comments below. And while you're at it, why not hit the like and subscribe button to learn all about architectural wonders and so much more. Until next time, bye for now.